So I was watching TV the other day, and no, that is not something that's necessarily common in my everyday routine, because let's be honest here, TV has kind of fallen by the wayside ever since the advent of the internet. Not to say that television shows have fallen by the wayside, but the actual act of watching television shows on the TV, that's kind of fallen behind, because, you know, way back in like in the 90s, you're like, oh man, there's a new episode of, I don't know, Malcolm in the Middle. Yeah, remember that show? Yeah, nostalgia. You know, like, better fire up that VCR and record it, otherwise I'll have to sit around and wait for a rerun. You know, now it's just like, I mean, I watch a bunch of shows. You know, I like Doctor Who, Game of Thrones, Pawn Stars, and I'll say it, I don't care, I like that show. But thing is, even if I miss it, I have no desire to watch them on TV. Even after I have DirecTV, I have DVR, because I can just watch them on the internet literally whenever I want to. Even if you don't subscribe to like Hulu or Crackle or something, you could still just find a streaming site. It's not very hard. So usually, but aside from but there are people that still watch television shows. But something that has definitely changed over the years that just doesn't happen anymore is the act of channel surfing. Yeah, remember that? Remember when you would, you know, you had no like easy to access guide. You couldn't just push a button and see what's on. You actually had to flick through the channels and see just what was playing currently. You didn't know what was going to be on that channel in an hour unless you had like the TV listings. Yeah, you go in the newspaper and dig out, you know, like, oh, okay, now I know what's on television this week. We're like a bunch of fucking cavemen. You know, it was crazy. So the other day, though, you know, I decided, you know, I'm gonna channel surf. I'm not gonna look at my favorite channel thing, like the easy, like the quick access button. I'm just gonna flick through the channels. I'm not gonna check the guide. I'm just gonna see what the hell is on, like going back to my roots. So I'm flicking through the channels, and I eventually end up on the Sci-Fi Channel, or the Sci-Fi Channel, however you want to pronounce that. You know, I used to watch it on a regular basis back when it was called the Sci-Fi Channel. But haven't watched it in many years. And the thing about Sci-Fi Channel is that it's really weird in that it produces these really infamous, poorly CG, kind of poorly acted in some regard, made-for-television movies. And you've probably seen some of them before, either on the Sci-Fi Channel, just by, you know, like, you'll be clicking through your guide and you'll see, like, Mega Python versus Gatoroid, and you'll be like, okay, that sounds stupid, and you'll keep flicking. Or more likely, you've probably just seen them at the bargain bin in your local Walmart. Like, you know those DVDs you see in Walmart that's like $5 and it includes like 12 movies for only $5, and you're thinking, holy shit, 12 movies for $5? That's like, I don't have time for math. That's a really good deal. So you'll buy them and you'll discover, oh yeah, they're these kind of movies. Yeah, these are pretty much where all the sci-fi made-for-television movies end up, is on those 12 movie box set ultimate deal sort of things. So yeah, and the thing is, though, is that even though they make these weird kind of, I don't want to say weird, because some of them are, I'm going to get into it in a second here, but some of them are actually interesting just for the sake of, you know, like look at Sharknado. Like, Sharknado is the huge one, because everyone was like, this is so stupid, but it actually gained such a great cult following. So not all of them are terrible. But what sci-fi does well, surprisingly, is make good original television series. Like, there's series that air on Sci-Fi Channel that actually have been going on for a number of seasons, and I actually know people, like, in real life that I can talk to that have actually seen them. Like, hey man, did you see Warehouse 13 last week? I'm like, yeah man, it was an awesome episode. You know, there's also, you know, Haven, which is a show that not a lot of people have ever heard of, but it does air on Sci-Fi. Just had its season 4 finale a couple weeks back. You know, I got into it. It's a pretty good show.
You need to remember who you were.
I'm Lexi DeWitt. That is who I really am.
There's another one, too. It was Being Human. Yeah, Being Human. Not the original UK version, of course, kind of the Sci-Fi's own take on Being Human, but it's still a pretty good adaptation, nonetheless. So, though the actors that appear in these television series are, of course, not big-name Hollywood actors and actresses, but they're still very competent. They carry scenes. They can carry emotion pretty damn well. One of the main actors in Haven is a WWA wrestler. You know, and he actually does a fairly good job. You think, okay, a wrestler in a television drama, like a supernatural drama, this is just bound to be a train wreck. He's actually pretty good. So, they do the series pretty well. But the movies are what I want to talk about, because when I was flipping through the channels on that fateful morning, I actually stumbled across one of these infamous made-for-television movies by the Sci-Fi Channel. And these are coming from such titles. I just want to, I'm going to, the title of the movie was, hold on, let me just double check here. The title of the movie was Axe Giant, The Wrath of Paul Bunyan. Now, I just want, before you laugh, I just want to take this time to announce and show you some of the other titles that will appear on the Sci-Fi Channel. So therefore, you become aware, if you don't have the channel, or if you have it or you just don't watch it, you will understand that this is by far not the weirdest title you have ever seen for a movie, okay? Because these titles are just insane. We have this is just a quick list. Like, look at these, okay? We got Frankenfish. We got Chupacabra versus the Alamo. Actually, a lot of these are just something versus something. Some random predator versus some other random predator. Or for added fun, we'll just add the extra, like add a fusion, like the Megapython Gatoroid thing. You know, I threw in later. You know, Sharknado, of course, is a big one. So a ghost shark. You know, sharks are really big. Sharks are really huge. I don't know if it didn't start with Sharknado and it didn't end with Sharknado, but ever since Sharknado, there's gonna be a big shark explosion. You know, and they're actually making a sequel to that movie, I believe. So yeah, it's crazy. So aside from the really out there crazy titles, I mean, I don't know if they're I think what they were going for was making titles that are really memorable and really easy, like Sharknado. You're not going to forget fucking Sharknado, but some of the titles are just way too long, and they add way too much, you know, gravitas to something, and too much, like, epic, like the Axe Giant, The Legend of Paul Bunyan, The Wrath of Paul Bunyan, I should say. You know, that's not a title you're going to be just sitting there. I mean, I forgot it like 6 times, as I have the freaking thing up right here. It's the only way I'm going to remember these freaking crazy things. But, so, the crazy titles, that's the first thing that these movies are known for. The second thing they're known for are the copious amounts of bad CG. I mean, even if it's the year 2014, well, this movie was made in 2013, so, you know, I'm clicking through, I see Paul Bunyan movie made in 2013. I'm like, okay, I have not seen a sci-fi movie in forever. Like, I actually have not sat down and just watched a random sci-fi movie in forever. So, you know, I remember the CG being terrible. I remember the terrible green screen and chroma key effects, but maybe they did it good. Maybe this one is the game changer, you know? Maybe it's going to be, they finally got some competent, you know, special effects. No, they really didn't. It was all but as bit of cheesy as I remember. Hey, at least it stayed the same, right? At least just for nostalgia's sake. Like, I remember watching these movies when 2003. But yeah, so that's the second thing they're known for, is the bad CG. Third thing they're known for is they don't really have any mainstream actors in it, which I'm not complaining about that, because everybody has to start out somewhere. If you want to be an actor or an actress, you know, you can't start off with The Desolation of Smaug. You gotta go and start at the bottom of the barrel. Like, I don't know, you're in some shitty pilot for a sitcom. You know, like, oh man, this single father's living in, I don't know, Phoenix, Arizona, and he has to raise 3 kids, but all of a sudden his high school flame comes back to town and things get nuts. You know, it's just the crazy, we've seen it 1,000 times before, sitcom that's going to air on Fox, and you get, like, the main part in the pilot. Or you get, like, an extra, like a cameo appearance. Not really a cameo, it would be an extra appearance in like, How I Met Your Mother. You play random guy number 3 who walks by Neil Patrick Harris in the bar scene, you know? And then you can go home to all your friends and be like, I was on How I Met Your Mother on the same scene as Neil Patrick Harris. You know, I saw him for a whole 20 seconds on set, and he looked at me for a whole 5 of those 20 seconds. Yay! But, you know, so you have to start off somewhere. But the thing is, not that even if, like, okay, I'm not going to go to be an actor. Like, I want to do something with film. Acting's not really something I want to aspire towards. But, hey, if I was aspiring toward acting and someone gave me, like, hey, Matt, do you want to appear in Chupacabra versus the Alamo 2, Wrath of, I don't know, the Spartans Rise Again? It makes as much sense as anything. It's like, yeah, sure, fine, I don't care. You play random guy number 2 who gets killed 5 seconds into the movie. I'm like, okay, dude, whatever. You know, pay shit, but hey, I'm in the movie, you know? So you're gonna, yeah. But the thing is, not that the people that do appear in the movie that you've never heard of, the people that do appear that are major actors were major actors like 20 years ago. And you'll usually have one of these in every single movie. And in this one, we have the actor who played Grizzly Adams in The Life and Times of Grizzly Adams back in the 70s. We also have Joe Estevez, which you don't know who Joe Estevez is. He is the uncle of Charlie Sheen and the brother of Martin Sheen. So yeah, if you wanted to see Charlie Sheen's uncle in a movie, here you go. And those guys will usually get, though, they're the ones that'll get like the major actors, like their names on the poster. Like, this is starring Joe Estevez, aka Martin Sheen's brother, and the guy that played Grizzly Adams. You know, those are the guys that'll get like the top billing on the poster and everything. So you'll always have at least one of those random actors that, you know, nobody has even thought of in years and actually thought, like, is he still around? You know, like, I don't know, like Zombie Piranha versus Cyborg Shark, and it stars Henry Winkler as the grizzled, crazy old swamp man. Or, I don't know, Alien Anal Probing Incursion, you know, starring, I don't know, anyone hear of Greg Kinnear? Remember Greg Kinnear? Yeah, he was kind of a big deal at one point, not really. So that's the kind of, those are the three things you got to deal with here. So it starts off with these kids that are going to this kind of camp for delinquents, or they're basically going to this, you know, get out of, you know, what's it called? I forget. Like, you know, it's like you're not, it's not juvenile delinquency hall. It's just like first offenders. Like a day at the prison, just to see, you know, this is where you kids are going if you keep with your delinquent behavior. That's where these kids go. It's like a camp for that kind of person, like first offenders sort of thing. So you have this really stereotypical like sergeant who is dressed up in military garb. Like, I think he was like a former Marine, and I forget this actor's name, but he acts like a freaking robot the entire every line he says. He acts like either like a robot or like the permanent drill sergeant mode. And what I mean by that is, if you've ever seen like an army movie where, you know how the drill sergeant is like drilling the grunts and he's just like, you have arrived here at Cape Fort, you will do exactly what I say, you will listen to everything I say, you will not take one step out of turn or I will beat you over the head with a fucking toothbrush, you know, do you hear me, maggot, you know, that sort of thing. He acts like that on permanent repeat. You know, be like, okay, everybody, in the van! Time to wake up from the dream. The nightmare is just getting started. You know, that sort of thing. And he'll either act like that or he'll just act like a total dick. Essentially. So instantly this character is just insanely unlikable. But he's one of those characters that, yeah, he's unlikable, but he's funny just to listen to because nobody acts this robotic. So you get these, like, 6 kids or teenagers, young adults, and they get into this, you know, this van, and they're getting wheeled off to go to this camp, which is basically Camp Crystal Lake. I mean, they say it's Camp something, whatever. It looks like Camp Crystal Lake. I swear to God, they use the exact same cabin layout from Camp Crystal Lake, from the original Friday the 13th. Going along with them is this woman who is the main female lead, and possible survivor chick, and she's all, you know, all morally upright, and she's just like, I care about these children's futures. I'm going to make sure that everything that you do here is just and is for the greater good because I really care about them. I really care about them. They're like my, you know, that kind of over, just like, you know, I care about them so much because, you know, they deserve a bright future, and just like, lady, yeah, I know where you're coming from, lady. I mean, she's not a bad actress. It's just we've seen it before 1,000 times. So, you know, the little bit about these kids, I'm not going to go into detail because they're all stereotypical. There's a jock, there's a random Spanish chick that automatically, as soon as shit gets the fan, you know, she's just like, El Diablo, you know, this is from the ancient fairy tales that my grandmother told me that it's the devil, you know, like, you know, that kind of, there's always one, you know, there's always one, either Latina or Spanish individual in some kind of horror movie that's always going to say, like, oh, this is from an ancient scripture in the Bible that states that, you know, he will rise after 7 days or he will eat your face or something like that. There's a demon that will do this. You know, there's always one. At least in modern day horror movies there are. You know, back in the old Friday the 13th and Halloween's, we didn't have any of this bullshit. You know, crazy mass murderer comes and kill you. He doesn't have to be the devil. He doesn't have to be a demon. He just has to be a crazy dude with an axe that's going to go hack your bones up. That's all he that's all it has to be. Very simple. But then we also have, you know, random hot chick who she plays the dumb bimbo, you know, just like, it's just like, I love texting. That's all my character is being uninterested in texting. And wearing a low-cut top, because, you know, that's just how it goes. There's the black guy. You knew that was coming, right? There's got to be a black kid. Although, I want to make a slight tangent here for the black kid. As I said previously, this was like a camp for people that go, like, first offenders, you know? So you might be thinking, oh, okay, so they're like, you know, drunk driver offense, or maybe he stole, you know, I don't know, a video game from Walmart or something, or theft, or, you know, and like maybe a minor assault charge, you know, something like that. Nothing really huge. Like, none of these kids, like, committed murder or anything like that. oh, you know, like I think one chick, like the dumb bimbo, had like an assault on a police officer or something like that. You know, something like that. You know, some not huge offenses that are going to be like, you know, first degree. You know, you're in a state penitentiary for a life sentence. This black kid, he apparently, when he was originally being brought out by the sergeant dude, he's just like, you know, like, glasses, you're charged with, you know, felony. Or, you know, you stole some money. Okay, so I'm thinking, all right, he broke into like a gas station, like a 7-Eleven, and he stole the cash register. Okay, whatever. Then later in the van, he's, you know, one of the guys is grilling him, like, what did you steal? And the black kid's, like, the jock's grilling him, and the black kid's just like, oh, I stole like $12 million from this, from the government over the internet. And the jock is just like, whoa, really? I'm like, what'd you do with that money? I'm just like, oh, they figured it all out before I had a chance to spend any of it. It was just all numbers on a computer screen. I'm like, you fucking serious? He stole 11, like 12, I think he said like 12 million, but it's like 11.5. IRS likes to round shit up, you know? Like, okay, that was pretty funny, but no, you don't do that. You don't steal $12 million of government funds and just get like, oh, well, you didn't do anything with it, so your master hacking skills will be perfectly reprimanded in just a first offenders. No, this is the kind of shit where you go, like, this is the kind of shit where you don't even really have a trial. This is the kind of shit where the FBI shows up at your front door, kicks it down, grabs you, blindfolds you, throws you in the back of the van, shoves you in solitary confinement for like 3 weeks before you even get a fucking trial. That's the kind of shit this thing goes down. You don't do that. You know, you could have just said, oh, I broke into a gas station, you know, and then I stole some money from this guy, I pickpocketed somebody. You don't have to be a freaking member of Al-Qaeda or the Taliban. I mean, man, that is insane. And the funny thing is, the only reason they brought that up was to show, like, oh, I know computers, I know technology because I'm a master hacker. And by the way, you're out in the middle of the friggin' woods. You know, there's no time in the entire movie where these master hacking skills play off. The thing that comes closest is when they don't have the keys to the van. They're trying to leave the camp when shit's hitting the fan, when Paul Bunyan shows up and starts stepping on everybody. And they're like, oh, we don't have the keys to the van. And the black kid's just like, oh, I know how to hotwire it. That's like the only time he comes in handy. He's like, oh, I'm a master hacker, therefore I know how to hotwire a vehicle. You know, and he fails miserably anyway, so, you know, there's, like, no point to that, you know? Like, I stole $12 million from the government, and they're just sending me to this camp out in the middle of the woods. Like, yeah, really? Okay, that makes sense. Oh, and there's also one more random chick. I think she got into, like, drunk driving or whatever. Her dad is Joe Estevez, you know? Her dad is the sheriff who plays, you know, who's, you know, Charlie Sheen's uncle, which after I found that out, I was just calling him Charlie Sheen's uncle the entire time. You know, so there's this one random chick that shows up, and of course, you know, she's like the virgin survival girl. So anyway, they get to this camp, and, you know, they do, like, the typical, like, you know, we're going to go off for a 10-mile hike in the woods. You know, we're not going to, you wake up at 4 a.m., do some exercise, you know, typical stuff. Oh, the lady that comes with them, though, you know, the all preppy and, like, the office lady that comes with them, when it's come time to, like, bunk down for the night, like, the drill sergeant dude is just like, I'm sleeping in the cabin. You grunts sleep out here in the woods. You know, you have a tent. And so the office lady, who is clearly, you know, she's just here just to kind of keep an eye on everything. She's not really here to, you know, get in the way. She's just here just to kind of observe and just kind of take notes. And, you know, the drill sergeant's just like, you know, you sleep outside with them. You know, I don't take anything, you know, I don't go easy on anybody out here. I'm going to sleep in my nice cozy cabin. You can sleep out here with the 6, you know, known delinquents that have committed crimes, and I'm sure you'll be okay. You know, and even worse than that, I think she sleeps in the same tent as one of them. Like, yeah, okay, that's safe, whatever. For all you know, they could, like, get up in the middle of the night, hold this chick down, and do unspeakable things to them. But, you know, I just got really dark right there, so I'm going to move on. So, moving on to Paul Bunyan, which, you know, Paul Bunyan, random thing to show for a horror movie, but I'm like, okay, you know, he might be not so well known, but I mean, most people have heard The Tall Tale. Most people have seen the Simpson episode.
That's how Paul Bunyan started the Great Chicago Fire.
Oh, God, I wish I was watching that right now. Anyway, most people have heard of the tale. You know, big giant guy with an axe. He has a blue ox that is his only friend, and he just goes around Minnesota. He apparently, you know, stepped and created lakes with his foot and, you know, hacked down trees and, you know, shit like that. So we've at least heard of him, and I'm thinking, okay, that's an alright concept for a horror movie. You know, big giant guy with an axe. I mean, you can make it funny. You know, you can make it horror. You can do something with it. You know, just throw in. You know, he's not really intelligent. He's kind of like a lumbering ogre. You know, so you have it. You can make it. You can make it work. So the reason that Paul Bunyan is all pissed off though is because somebody like okay, so he has his blue ox, right? And in the past, somebody like they like the hunter played by the guy that played Grizzly Adams. You know, they found the blue ox and they murdered him. And Paul took the remains of his blue ox and he like buried them up on a shrine on top of this hill. And then the kids show up and one of the jock kid grabs one of the horns from the skull and he brings it with them. And you know, and then Paul's all pissed off and wants to chase after them and get Babe's skull back. I'm thinking, okay, it's kind of ridiculous in terms of plot setup. Like you just to assume that there's this giant just hanging out here, and nobody has ever seen him, nobody's ever heard of him. You know, a big, huge, giant guy that can tear a bear apart just by lifting him apart. You know, stomping around the woods. No one's ever even come across this dude. Well, I guess anyone that has come across him wouldn't live to tell the tale, but whatever. So so Paul comes chasing after them. He instinctively knows where this place is, which is even funnier because apparently the drill sergeant has been doing this for a number of years. He's been bringing kids out here to this program for a number of years, and to the same exact place where Paul Bunyan's cave is no less than like a mile or so away from it, and he's never had any problems. Nobody's ever happened to just stumble across this shrine before now. So, by the way, the flashback scene where we see Babe, that's the part with like the worst CG in the entire movie. Like it is so noticeable. You can't even say like, oh, they at least tried. It is pathetically bad. But aside from they throw a green screen effect in there too, and it's like you have CG Paul Bunyan walking in front of a green screen that looks like it was a screen capture from like Back to the Future Part 3 or something, like an old timey village. And he's walking through the village, and people are like looking at him, just like, oh, that kind of thing. So that's the worst part. But if you can get past that, which is like about an hour and a half, like an hour and so into the movie, you can do it. So also living in the forest is this crazy old hillbilly, because of course there's always one. This crazy old hillbilly who comes down and Paul Bunyan, he steps on the sergeant, he kills him, he slices the fucking bimbo in half with his giant axe, and I think he eventually kills the jock too, and he takes the horn back and he goes back to his cave. But Paul's not done yet. Paul is still pretty pissed off because he doesn't. I would just imagine he has nothing to do, except kill teenagers at the moment. So he's just like, well, I got nothing to do, so I'm just gonna like sharpen my axe and go and try to kill them again because it's pretty boring up here, to be honest with you. So, while he's doing that, the hillbilly comes down to the cabin, and he's the one that he's like the wise sage that reveals the origins of Paul Bunyan and who he is, And it's always funny when they have to make these plots make sense. Like Sharknado, you'll have a scientist show up and be like, the sharks seem to be migrating in a certain path, and then this tornado whips. Like, no, you can't make this make sense. Frankenfish. So this fish was growing to the size because of, pick one. We got like toxic chemicals, alien invasion, evil magic, alignment of the planets, different dimensional creatureoids, Great Cthulhu. You have to come up with some kind of reason why this shit's happening. You have to make it somehow seem scientifically accurate. So the hillbilly is, at least, he's just basically telling them the tall tale of Paul Bunyan. This is the truth, though, remember. So he tells them the story, and then later he turns out to be evil. And, so Paul comes back, and he eventually ends up getting, I believe, shot in the head. So he goes down, but he's not down for long. And then this was basically the climax of the movie. I skipped a part because I was kind of lazy. I went away for a while. So the hillbilly takes a shotgun on the remaining survivors, like the two women and the black kid. And apparently this guy has like the worst hearing ever, because this giant 15-foot giant behind him is like slowly getting back up and like crushing the cabin as he's getting back up, picking up his like freaking 1-ton axe. and the hillbilly's just like, he's like, you didn't think you'd get away with it, right? It's like a Scooby-Doo villain at this point. He's like, I was after the gold up in them hills, and you kids had to show up and piss Paul Bunyan off, and now I'm gonna kill you, and oh, hey, Paul Bunyan, you know, and he slices his head off. It's like a weird Matrix move where Paul Bunyan whips out his giant axe, and he just, keep in mind, this is not a hand axe. This is like a huge, like a telephone pole for a freaking handle, and the guy, like, he whips that son of a bitch, and it, like, flies like a freaking frisbee, and, you know, the girls get down, and the black kid gets down, and I think the black kid got shot at this point, and I'm pretty sure the black kid's dead, because the black guy always has to die. So two girls get down, and the hillbilly just turns around, and he's just like, boom, and then his head flies off. So, God, I'm like, man, Paul Bunyan, he knows how to whip that thing, you know? So, you know, he goes down, and eventually they get away. You know, and that's how the movie ends. They get away. You know, Joe Estevez shows up, and he does his thing, and he rescues his daughter, and he rescues the office lady, and they all go off to, you know, do whatever. So yeah, that's the movie. You know, does it sound stupid? Yeah, it does. But you know, that's a sci-fi movie for you. You know, I didn't want to really do a review of it. I just wanted to kind of bring to the attention of the kind of quality that's on this channel. And because it's a good channel, I watch it. I watch a bunch of shows on it. Like I said, Where Else 13 is great. Haven is great. I've never really seen Being Human aside from a couple episodes, but it seems pretty cool. They had some they had some good shows that don't continue anymore, like Kyle XY. Remember that show? That was a pretty good show. You know, but you know the movies are just, they churn out like 3 or 4 of these things a year. And, you know, they're just ridiculous in the sense, like, if you find a good one, like Sharknado, where you can just sit down and just laugh your ass off at the, like, at what you're seeing on the TV screen, you know, it's funnier to laugh at stuff that's not supposed to be funny. But I think with Sharknado, they freaking knew, because there's no way you can make that seriously. I mean, like, the tagline of the movie is Sharknado, enough said, you know, it's the tagline of the movie, you know, you can't make that dramatic. You know that people are going to be laughing their asses off. And maybe that's what they came up with. And maybe that's the reason they keep making so many of these. Is just because they know that people are not watching these to be dramatic. People are not watching these to be horribly afraid. They're watching these as comedies, as like a black... But these are the B movies of this era. That's a perfect way to put them. These, like, remember the crappy B... Well, they're not really crappy, but the B movies back in like the 50s and 60s, like I don't know, like Robot Monster, you know, shit like that, where you have like the really fake, you know, like lightning bolts effects and, you know, the sound effects, and like instead of using actual like effects, you have like fog machines or bubble machines everywhere to kind of carry it. You know, those are the B movies of today. That's like if Ed Wood stepped through a time portal and walked into 2013. These are the movies he would be making. You know, this is how Ed Wood would do it. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this very long ramble. I've been going on for like half an hour already, but I wanted to test out this new HD camera, the webcam I have on my computer, and this microphone. Hope it worked. Teching 101, 1001, signing out. See you guys.